Welcome back to a post-Thanksgiving Daft on Draft podcast episode here. Hope your bellies are full. Hope the leftovers are hitting just right as well. We had a great time off. Hope you did as well. But we're back ready to talk Week 14. Again, by the time that you have listened to this podcast, we will have already have missed Western Michigan and Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green and UMass and Navy and Memphis. But I don't think there's a lot to really go through in those games anyway. But we do have quite a few rivalry games to get through in this week, and then some other games with some playoff implications as well. So, a lot to get through here, both Friday and Saturday. So, we're going to get a nice loaded slate both today and tomorrow as you're listening to this episode. So, James, how are you feeling, man? We're ready to roll. How are you doing?
You're about to ask how was my Thanksgiving?
I was about to ask how was your Thanksgiving, and then we're recording a doubleheader and it's
before
Tuesday
Thanksgiving
night.
has happened.
Yeah.
So I'll
Wednesday,
say
yeah,
good, bold prediction there. But I'm actually really looking forward to this Thanksgiving slate because it's split up into 2 days. Saturdays are normally so overwhelming where you just have to pick games that you completely can't pay attention to. So this will allow me to follow more games live, which I'll appreciate.
For sure. So obviously the big one is the high noon on Friday is the Egg Bowl high noon I should say 11 a.m. for you. Some brunch football for you. Is the Egg Bowl Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. I think the most anticipated thing about this matchup is we're going to find out where Lane Kiffin is coaching after this game. It seems like LSU is the pretty heavy betting favorite right now where Lane Kiffin's going to be coaching. But we will find that out after this game as well. From an NFL draft perspective, James, I know you are a big fan of the Mississippi State receiver Thompson here. Anything else? And the corner, Kelly, right? Kelly Jones. So talk to me a little bit those two and what this matchup could entail for both those players.
Yeah, Mississippi State has two of the fastest players at their position on either side of the ball. Brennan Thompson, the receiver, I think is probably it's him and Eric Rivers are the fastest receivers in this class. Brennan Thompson, I mean, I think I said this in a previous episode, but I have like misevaluated corners in this class, their speed, because they've gone up against Brennan Thompson. Like I've watched a corner just get cooked off the line and thought like, wow, this guy is slow. And then I come back to Brennan Thompson's tape and I'm like, oh wait, no, that he just was going up against Brennan Thompson. Like that's all it was. So easy speed, some elite ball tracking, like over the shoulder. Really, like he is going to be kind of a specialized role in the NFL, but I really like him early day 3, maybe even late day 2. And then Kelly Jones is like a pure linear boundary corner. When it comes to mirroring and man coverage, I worry about that a little bit, and I worry about the physicality taking on blocks. But just like blanketing people on the vertical plane, he does that at an extremely high level.
Brennan Thompson about 500 yards and 2 touchdowns in his last 5 games.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty strong outing.
It's a lot of there. When you watch his tape, early in the season, it's a lot of like overthrown deep passes where he's wide open. So the production could have been a lot more stable if he had just gotten consistently accurate passes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Trinidad Chambliss remains one of my favorite day 3 quarterbacks in this class as well. I just think the dude's so much fun. He's got a decently live arm as well. He's not afraid to throw middle of the field at all either. He's a fearless thrower, just like an all-around gamer. He's one of my favorite players to watch this year in college football. As purely a college football player, but I also think there's a little something there as like one of these like day 3 players that gets drafted on a cheap backup contract as well.
I agree.
All right, moving on to Utah, Kansas. Again, Kansas doesn't have much in way of NFL draft talent, but it is a big game for Utah, who needs to win and also needs for BYU to lose to have a shot at a rematch with Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. BYU, unfortunately, is playing UCF and our 17.5-point favorite, so it would take quite a bit for that to happen. But likely the last chance then that we're going to get to watch Caleb Lohman and Spencer Fano before they head to the NFL, which again, Lomu walked with the seniors as a redshirt sophomore, which seems to be an indication that he's heading in that direction. Although there still seems to be a little bit out there that he might still go back and just like walked just in case, which is a little weird to me. But might be our last chance to see those Utah offensive tackles.
Yeah, I think Lomu would probably be my bet for first offensive lineman off the board,
Hmm.
assuming that he enters the draft. I haven't watched him the last couple weeks. Just he's kind of a guy that I'm not sure if he's going to declare, so I don't want to waste my time. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's outside of the Texas Tech game. It's been really clean tape all of this
Hmm.
year, but Texas Tech is by far the best competition that he's faced. So
Yeah.
really hoping that they get another matchup with David Bailey and Romello Hype.
I would love to see a rematch for sure. As my board sits, Caleb Lomu is my second offensive lineman with CC Moinoa, who I have graded as a guard above him. But Caleb Lomu is number 10 on my board right now with Spencer Fano 14. So both those guys right there in that top 15 range. The thing with Lomu, though, is like I will just continue to harp on his body development from last year to this year and
Mm-hmm.
how young he is and how much opportunity. Like I still will just harp that his best football is still ahead of him. Just like that guy's best football is still out there, which really excites me.
Have you
All
kept
right,
up
moving
with
on.
John Henry Daly at all
He got hurt
recently?
last week, dude.
Really?
And he didn't walk. Last week was senior day
Okay.
too, and he didn't walk. So pretty strong indication that he might be going back to school there too.
Yeah.
Um, even though he's a redshirt junior, right? He actually, I think he's a redshirt sophomore, but he's like a class of 2019 player because he did his
Yeah.
LDS mission before he enrolled at BYU, um, and then transferred to Utah. Georgia Tech here. Um, so again, Georgia, you win, you're in the SEC title game. You win, you're a lock to make the college football playoffs. You lose, you're probably still a lock to make the college football playoffs at fourth overall. Like how far are you fallen if you lose this game to 23rd overall Georgia Tech? I do think this is sneaky because Georgia Tech almost got them last year, and I thought Georgia was way more talented last year than they are this year, um, especially along their front seven, which is what Georgia Tech has exploited on every single team they've played this year. Is they want to run the ball right at you, and they're going to throw a lot of eye candy at your front seven, and they're just gonna try to kill the clock and dominate on the ground. So I do think for all the conversations we've had about the lack of talent up front for Georgia, this could be a little tricky for them, a little more tricky than maybe anticipated.
Yeah, I would probably go with Georgia in this game. I need to catch up on Keelan Rutledge for Georgia Tech. I know he's kind of their highest graded guy on the consensus board. But I have caught up on Oscar Delp and Zachariah Branch. Um, Delp to me, I think, is a sneaky candidate to be
Mm-hmm.
like a top 3 to 4 tight end taken in this class. He doesn't get used a ton, but very consistent when he does get used and a solid blocker as well. Branch continues to get a lot more hype than I really think is justifiable based on the tape. I mean, he is a fun gadget player, has, start stop ability where he can kind of leave pursuit angles in the dust, but he's just not really a refined route runner. I don't see a full time, like every down 3 level
Mm-hmm.
role. So uh, he, I, he seems to be like a top 50 fringe, like based on the guys that are in the know. Like I know Mel Kiper likes him. There was another ESPN person that had him ranked highly, but um, I'm not sure I'm on board with that.
No, if I had to guess, he's a back to school candidate. You can't be a gadget player and only have 638 yards receiving. Like
Yeah.
to be a gadget player and get drafted really highly, you have to have the kind of season that like Rondale Moore had at Purdue or Kadarius Toney had at Florida, or like one of those type, just explosive play after explosive play after explosive play, multiple per game, like a legitimate game changer. And I don't get that same feel from Branch at all. So I think he's a pretty firm back to school candidate.
Yeah,
The
he's
Delp thing is interesting.
24th on the Draft Network board, 23rd on Mel Kiper's.
He wasn't in Dane's top 50 at all, I don't think.
Right.
So, um, the Delp thing's really interesting because I had that same note in my summer grade on him. I think I had him graded as a top 5 tight end over the summer in the class, and I was just like, I don't know why they don't throw the football to this guy. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage. He stems his routes really well. He gets out of his routes really well, and he's really good transitioning from a receiver to a ball carrier with the football in his hand too. So it was like, why? And again, Todd Monken, if he were still the offensive coordinator at Georgia, we'd probably be talking a lot more about Oscar Delp than we are. But I completely agree with you. I think there's a couple tight ends who aren't producing at their current team that, like, by the time we roll back around to the combine, we'll be talking about them again. It's like, oh yeah, these guys are still good. And I think Gillenborg is probably the other one that is in that category too. But I think that's it. The Rutledge Christian Miller matchup is going to be a fun one.
Yep.
That's obviously a resume game for both those players. Christian Miller's kind of a player. Is like, is he going to declare? Like, I wonder if Christian Miller's going to declare.
Yeah, defensive tackle class I think is really clogged. Like spots picks 25 to 75. There's just so many defensive tackles that I could see going in that range, and I'm sure it'll start to thin out over the next few weeks as we start to get those decisions, which I'm personally excited for because I've got like
I got to cut some names off my watch
Excel
list.
sheet. I like highlight players color coded based on like priority to watch, and I've got so many players that are in the like I'm behind on their tape, but I think there's a chance they might go back to school. So is it worth me watching their tape now and then 3 weeks later they announce? So yeah, I'm ready to figure out who's actually in the class.
For sure. Same here. I would love to cut some players off my list for sure because there's a lot of them to go. Indiana, Purdue, not much to talk about here other than Indiana being the second ranked team in the nation, and you win this game, you're into the Big Ten title game. Pretty straightforward as it gets there. Our last chance at, maybe it's our last chance.
I don't even think there's really anything to talk about here.
There's not, because I was going to say it's our last chance to really see Mendoza, but like, no, we're not. We're going to watch him in the Big Ten title game. We're going to watch him in the playoffs.
RPO game for him.
Yeah. He might go like 18 of 20 at halftime for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he won't play in the second half. Texas A&M Texas is probably the headline of the Friday slate here. This one's gonna be good, man. This one's gonna be really good. Texas A&M almost got last time out. They played Samford this past weekend. So, and I think Texas is peaking at the right time, and Arch is kind of peaking at the right time here. That this could be a little bit of a fun matchup here to keep an eye on. Will Lee is gonna get that long speed that we have some question marks about tested with Ryan Wingo for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I have a bold take for this game. This is the like ultimate in the weeds take, but
all of yours have been like the AJ Halsey will pick off Ty Simpson over the middle of the field, and the Marcellus Hawkins will have a 15+ run while making Jacoby Thompson miss.
That is true. All right. Texas A&M guard Chase Besantis will have at least 2 clean snatch traps against Texas, and that is including plays where he's called for a penalty, wrongfully called for a penalty.
Yes. Yep. His hands are so clean. Yep. So I'm actually writing up my top 5 and then tiering like my top 13 guards for my Substack tomorrow. And him and Pregnon, I have Pregnon at 3 and him at 4, but they are literally like this close together just because they win in different ways, and they're just like so differently, like schematically, like different specificities as guard. But like his pass pro, man, I can't get over it. He's good. All right, let's move on to Arizona State here. Arizona is actually a 1.5 favorite in this game. They're kind of riding a little bit of a hot streak here, coming off wins against Cincinnati and Colorado, at Baylor. They beat the crap out of Baylor last week. So in this game, I am unfortunately going to have to chart Jeff Sims, which I really don't want to after the season, because I mean he's out of eligibility, and Kenny Dillingham seems to think he's going to go to the league. So I'll have to at least put a profile together on him.
He has thrown some of the worst interceptions I've ever seen.
That's the Jeff Sims thing. Even going back to Georgia Tech to Nebraska to Arizona State, like
I haven't grinded or ground ground the
Ground his tape.
I haven't ground the Jeff Sims tape, but yeah, he's one of those. He's kind of like Brock Purdy to me, where I'm I am left out of the bad Brock Purdy takes because I just didn't evaluate him, because he's the type of guy I would see on like when they would cut away from the game I was watching on Saturday to him throwing the most ridiculous interception that I've ever seen. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not evaluating Brock Purdy. Maybe that's Jeff Sims to me, because that's kind of like my impression of him is just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But Jordan Tyson came back last week and played pretty well. Yeah, and he's going to have to go against Traydon Dukes has been playing more slot/box than outside corner, so I don't know if we'll get to see Traydon Dukes too much against him unless they're bunched up in trip sets. Because I noticed that's where Traydon Dukes kind of lived last week against Baylor. He kind of hung out in those bunch sets out there, or in the box. But that's something to watch. And then the safety Genesis Smith, who I don't think he's gonna declare, but he's a fun little free safety.
Traydon Stukes is there. Stukes and Genesis Smith are both playing really good football, especially recently. I mean, Stukes has 5 pass breakups and an interception in the last 3 games. But yeah, this is a lot of talented DBs in this matchup when you include Keith Abney. You texted me about Jordan Tyson, about how like if he's healthy, he's a top 5 player in the class. I totally agree with that. By the way, he's going to be so hard because like the injury concerns are very real. Just when you look at the volume of snaps that he's missed, but his tape is so clean.
It is. He's one of the most slippery and elusive receivers that I've ever watched. Just like it's impossible to get your hands on him. Even in press man, it's like you're working right through him. Like he's a ghost. He's so hard to get hands on.
Yep.
And then like he accelerates instantaneously. It's beautiful. It's a sight to see. Anyway, moving on to Saturday here. We have Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State is 9.5-point favorites. Ohio State has not won this game in nearly a half decade. So, is this the year that they get it done? Everybody thought last year was the year they got it done because Michigan was not good and they did not get it done. They're going to Ann Arbor. I mean, they lost in Columbus last year. They're going to Ann Arbor this year. I think they get it done this year, finally. But the only thing that's like really tripping me up is they haven't played a single team worth a damn since week 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year's result was one of the most shocking games that I can remember watching. I obviously did not think Michigan was going to win last year, and I don't think they're going to win this year, but my bold take is that Michigan wins the game. I don't actually think it's going to happen, but I think that there is a chance. Like I would take it if you gave me odds, but that's the name of the game with the bold takes. I think this year they have a quarterback that gives them a fighting chance, and they were able to win it without one last year. You've got, key players for Ohio State that have been injured. And then you talk about the level of competition. It is kind of hard. They can only play who's on their schedule. So it's not, trying to like, it's the exact same thing as like Indiana kind of did last year, where it's like you beat the brakes off of these middling Big Ten teams. And it's kind of like it's all you can do with what you're given, but
right.
Can't really. There's a limit to how much you can prove.
Right. Some matchups to keep an eye on this one. I think the Derek Moore versus Austin Seerveld one is one of the more fun ones to watch. For once, there isn't a Michigan corner that I'm like over the moon about. I know some people like Jair Hill, but I could not. I do not like Jair Hill. His tape. So Jeremiah Smith said he's feeling pretty good about playing in this one, so that'll help out the Ohio State offense, even if he's not draft eligible. But again, I think the Seerfeld thing is interesting because I've heard from somebody in the know who says he's just kind of taking it week by week. So like, I personally would love to see Ohio State transfer in a left tackle and get a full season of Seerfeld tape at guard. because what I see is like I see a really refined guard, but like he gets beat outside shoulder, outside shoulder, outside shoulder because he can't strain that far in his kick set. So it's just like, just give me a full season of tape at guard so I can see, do you actually have a soft outside shoulder? Which I don't think he does because his outside hand is really strong. So like, I just want that tape at guard, but I think he's pretty decently easy to project inside with the tape that we have though. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see how that works with Derek Moore this week. Jayshon Barham, the same thing. No other real head to heads. Justice Haynes is out for the season, so nothing to talk about back there with Michigan. Kind of a devoid year for Michigan in terms of NFL draft talent too.
Yeah, really, this one is kind of just looking at Ohio State players individually. I think
Mm-hmm.
big thing I'm looking for is Arvell Reese. Like
Yeah,
these last few games, kind of re-solidify that number one pick status grade that I had on him, and still do have on him. I think the other thing I would say for Ohio State is Max Clare.
yeah,
Continuing.
yeah.
It'll depend on the health of Ohio State's receivers, probably his
Mm-hmm.
involvement in the offense. But if it's a lower volume of targets, like doing the most with them.
For sure. Like last week, Tate Smith out. He went over 100 yards and 7 catches. We'll see with Smith. I would doubt Tate plays. It doesn't seem like Tate's in a position, like it doesn't seem like that's the position for Tate right now to play in terms of his injury. So we'll see how that works out as well. I'm also interested. We're going to see from both Reese and Styles as well that Michigan's going to run Underwood a lot, and so I think they're going to be stretched a little bit with their eyes and their range. Which they're both really explosive athletic linebackers, but it's going to be fun. We're going to get some more space opportunities for them to make plays in space that I don't even know if we've gotten to see really from them since they've played Arch Manning week 1, which is
Yeah,
that's where we really got to see.
Washington really.
Yeah, Washington, which is where we really got to see Arvell Reese like track Arch to the sideline consistently, spy him and trigger downhill, things like that. So we should get a lot of good looks in this one. Texas Tech, West Virginia. Not a lot to talk about here because West Virginia devoid of talent in the year 1 of the relaunch of Rich Rod. David Bailey, Romello Height should have a day in this one. Lee Hunter, same way. That defensive line should wreak havoc.
Yeah, man. If
Miami,
only they still had Skylar Gill Howard.
I know,
I mean,
I know. Miami Pitt. This one's sneaky. I think Pitt could win this game, man. One, because like, and I don't want to come off as like a Miami hater, but like maybe it's the Cristobal effect. Like I don't. That's a head coach who always wilts late in the season in big games. Same with the quarterback. Like this feels tricky. And then the freshman quarterback that Pitt's got slinging the freaking football out there, man, is really good. They had a true freshman running back for rush for what 180 yards last week as well. Like this is a team that could do some damage. Pitt is a sneaky team to win the ACC, I think, and not sneaky at this point anymore because they're ranked and they'll play in the championship game if they win this game. But yeah,
what is Miami? I'm trying to look up.
6.5 point favorites.
No, in the month of November. Let's see. Last 3 years in the month of November, they are 6-6. Yeah, and I think, let's see, other months besides November, they're 20-5. So,
Yeah,
that kind of says it.
yeah, agreed. The ACC is a mess too, dude. Those conference standings are an absolute mess. Like, I think half the conference is 2 losses within the conference. So like, there are so many different championship implication and things that could play out. Virginia, Pitt, SMU all have 1 loss in the conference. Georgia Tech has 2 losses. Miami has 2 losses. Duke has 2 losses. So Miami beats Pitt. Pitt has 2 losses. So it could just get really chaotic here in the ACC. It was looking a lot more chaotic until Louisville lost 3 straight when they were undefeated in conference play, but or 1 loss in conference play. But we've dwindled since then. But it's a mess. The ACC is a mess. All right. Clemson, South Carolina. This is, I think, the matchup of disappointing seasons for the quarterbacks and disappointing seasons for the team as well. I feel bad for Lenore Sellers again in this one because Clemson's defensive line is the one part of their unit that seems to be working well, and the offensive line is the strong bad unit for South Carolina.
Dylan Stewart has got to be one of the most noticeable underclassmen I've ever
Yes,
seen.
yes. I wonder where he's going to be playing football next year because I don't think it's going to be South Carolina.
Damn.
He almost went to Ohio State out of high school. Like Ohio State was his number 2 school, so that's in the back of my mind.
Dylan Stewart, Kenyatta Jackson, that would be a mean edge duo for next year.
We'll see. I think there's a chance Jackson comes out, but
I would have said that a couple months or a couple weeks ago, but the way he's playing, I feel like he needs another year.
Yeah. South Carolina perspective: Brandon Cisse versus the 2 sophomore phenoms and Antonio Williams, who has himself stated that there's no shot he's going back to school. So, as we talked about in yesterday's podcast, so that's something to watch in the secondary there. I guess Jalen Kilgore as well, but like, I feel like we do this every year where like one of the DBs comes in with more hype, and then like the people who are actually watching tape over the summer, like we're talking about the wrong DB. Like, do you remember everybody in 2021 was hyping up Israel Mukwamu, and everybody else was, like all of us over the summer were like, JC Horn's right there. Like you're missing the main attraction. He's right over there. It turns out to be the kind of same case this year where everybody was talking about Jalen Kilgore, and Brandon Cisse is now the one who looks like the first round pick, or the guy who's going to go first round out of the 2. So that's fun.
I also like Nick Barrett, the nose tackle for South Carolina, a decent amount as like a early to mid day 3 player. He had a really nice. Him and Chase Besantis had a nice back and forth matchup.
I texted some guys about him probably about a month ago now, and they're like, "Who the heck are you talking about?" I was like, "You guys got to watch him. He's fun. He is like just a rock who sits in the middle of the defense." But there's a lot of really fun nose tackles in this class.
Just a tree stump in the A gap.
Yes, he is. Have you watched? Speaking of, this is off topic, but Gary Smith III at UCLA.
No, but his name's been on my list for a while.
He's another one that's really fun to watch there. All right, we're going to skip over a lot of Big 12 games here because there's not a lot of implications for these teams playing in these games. UCF, BYU, same thing. BYU's a heavy favorite. They win. They're playing Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Oregon, Washington. Did you hear that McShay doubled down on Moore going back to school today?
I actually did listen to that podcast today.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't really hear it as like a doubling down.
Okay, what and from your perspective, what did he say?
I heard it as like, him basically echoing what we've been saying. Like he was essentially saying like, yeah, the sources say that he's going back to school. Like that is what they say, like I said a couple weeks ago. But when I watch his tape, like it looks like an NFL player. That's kind of what I got.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, I think it was more of a doubling down of his what he reported from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
but I was also driving on the interstate when I was listening to it. So
that's fair. Yeah, man. I just like when I watched Dante Moore, and again, I love Fernando Mendoza. I've been freaking on that train since April of 2025. Really before then, because I was just holstering it until the Monday after the draft. But it's so much easier to see it with Moore. Like you don't have to squint as hard to see it with Moore, and I think that's going to be really appealing to NFL teams. He's a natural thrower plus athlete, really good in structure, really smart, pinpoint accuracy. Like he checks the boxes of a guy that you would say, yeah, I would take that guy first overall. I don't know how you turned on nearly $50 million guaranteed to go back to school and risk it. So we'll see. Oregon is 6.5-point favorites in this game. Yeah. As far as individual matchups, Denzel Boston, but the corners he's going to go against are young guys who aren't coming out. So not a ton of individual one-on-one matchups to really talk about in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon is just so I think Oregon. I need to check this out. They probably have the most NFL draft talent just in terms of my grades
Probably.
of any school. I have not checked in on Takario Davis. Have you?
No,
I
but people
wasn't
out in
into
Washington
it.
say he's hurt all the time and he hasn't been playing very well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, outside of Denzel Boston, it's Jonah Coleman, and then that's it as far as Washington players currently for me.
So is Coleman healthy? Because he's only had 9 carries in the past 2 weeks combined.
Right. I haven't watched the last couple weeks.
Me neither. Me neither. But really, the efficiency's dropped off since the Ohio State game,
Yeah.
since week 5 with Jonah Coleman, who we were like, yeah, this guy might be RB2 in the class. So I think RB2 is still a gigantic unknown, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, like I'm still waiting to watch more than a few Emmett Johnson games. I know you've got some concerns with him.
Uh-huh.
That was a big thing with running backs where there's a lot of potential RB2s or like underclassmen. So
Yeah. My big thing is like if you don't have breakaway juice, you're a dime a dozen big day 3 back to me. Like it's just
that's
like,
fair.
yeah. And that's kind of how I feel about Emmett Johnson. He's fun. He's a good receiver, good eyes, but then like he gets to the second level and there's not a lot of juice there. He's getting tracked down a lot from behind. But LSU, Oklahoma. Again, this is a shell of LSU. Michael Van Buren starting. No head coach really, with Frank Wilson filling in there. Perhaps Lane Kiffin on the way. But it's a team that still has a decent amount of NFL talent, and they're going up against a struggling offense. I think is how I would describe Oklahoma right now. Like they can't run the ball. John Mateer is perhaps the least efficient quarterback in college football. Like I have a disdain for watching that guy play football right now because it's so inefficient. His eyes are all over the place, and he's not getting the ball out on time. He's taking hits that he has no business taking as a quarterback if he wants to have a future as an NFL quarterback as well. Just like there's a lot going on with that Oklahoma offense, and none of it is very good right now. And that LSU defense for how bad their offense has been is still really good. So we'll see how this one plays out. But I think I would take the under on that 10.5-point line.
Yeah, Oklahoma's offense just has been anemic since Mateer came back from the injury. Like at a certain point, he was at least a functional college quarterback, but yeah, it's pretty hard to watch. And for opposing defenders, it's pretty easy production, especially in the secondary.
Yeah. I will keep an eye on Braylon Moore, the center for LSU, against the really talented Oklahoma defensive line, though. There's 3 dudes, 2 guys who aren't even draft eligible in Stone and Jackson, and then there's Grayson Holton, who is a consistent college defensive tackle who I think is probably like a late day 2, early day 3 rotational defensive tackle at the NFL level. Probably actually early to mid day 3, just because I don't know how many physical traits there are to work with him, but he's rock solid. LSU receiver Xavion Thomas has led them in receiving the past 2 weeks after I've been clamoring for them to get him touches all season long. So I will keep an eye on Xavion Thomas as well.
Yep, he's been a riser over the last couple weeks for me. Yeah, I have 3 day 1 or day 2 grades in this game: Mansour Delane, AJ Halsey, R. Mason Thomas, and then Deion Burks is right on the outside.
R. Mason Thomas should have a day with those tackles as well.
Yeah.
They're both like really young and they're both really athletic, but neither of them have any core to them right whatsoever right now. So should be a good day for R. Mason Thomas. AJ Halsey might come away with one of those robber interceptions over the middle field in this one too.
This would have been the week to do that bold prediction.
Yeah. All right. Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I've got a hot take on this one, or a bold prediction in this one. The one player on Vanderbilt who is going to make some NFL draft noise this year is Eli Stowers, the tight end. Supposedly supposed to test out of his mind. I think he might be playing a little bit hurt because even though he had like a lot of production a couple weeks ago, I was like, he's moving a little gingerly. But regardless, he wins in kind of a variety of ways. But the 2 biggest ways he wins are by catching the slide flats and by ripping up the seam. So my bold prediction here with Eli Stowers, he has 2 separate 15-yard catches, one up the seam, and one in the flat that he picks up 15 yards of yak on. So that's my
I
bold
like it.
prediction on Eli Stowers in this game against Tennessee. Again, Jordan White, the center for Vanderbilt, is probably a day 3 player, decent player. But other than that, like Corday Sindor's fallen off since I gave him a helmet sticker like early in the season.
Pavia is slinging it. He's not
Pavia
getting
is slinging
drafted,
it,
but he's slinging
but
it.
future UFL MVP for sure. From a Tennessee perspective, though, what are you looking for here?
Yeah, I mean Colton Hood has been very consistent. He is probably my highest graded Tennessee player that is currently playing. So behind Jermon McCoy, Chris Brazel is going to be in that top 50 conversation. His production's leveled off a little bit, but not really declined. And then outside of that, Joshua Josephs, I think, is really explosive and will be. He's a fringe day 2 guy to me. I think the lack of bend and the simplicity of the way that he wins pushes him down my board.
I would agree with that as well. Brazel seems to have fallen firmly out of first round conversations for Tennessee as well.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because he just wins predominantly in vertical plane and isn't very good through contact still. So, but I still like Brazel. I still like him. I would take him in the 3rd round. All right.
I definitely like him more than I liked Hyatt.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which is easy.
What about
to say
Tillman?
now. Oh
What
yeah.
about Tillman? You like him more than Tillman
I
too?
wasn't a huge Tillman fan either though.
Okay. All right. Missouri, Arkansas here. This is the battle of another battle of really bad quarterback play between Purbuell and Taylor Green here. For Arkansas, their running back Mike Washington has, I think I mentioned in the podcast last week, he's been name dropped to me by a scout. So I'll have to tune in to watch how he does because Missouri's front 4 is really good. So that'll be interesting to watch as well. Outside of that, I don't got a lot to talk about in this game.
Yeah, Julian Neal probably. Well, I think he's class of 2021, so I think he has to declare. But Quincy Rhodes probably goes back to school, and that's really it for me on Arkansas's end.
I was a fan of Fernando Carmona 2 years ago when he transferred over from San Jose State, but I feel like his play has been pretty downhill since he's transferred over. Yeah. All right, let's skip down to Cincinnati TCU because I have another bold prediction in this game because this is like an all-time gunslinger quarterback duo, a duel here in this game between Brendan Sorsby and Josh Hoover. Like if you just like quarterbacks with some live arms who are going to throw the football over the field, this is the game for you. So, between Brendan Sorsby and Josh Hoover, TCU 4.5-point favorites. Cincinnati went on that run there where it looked like they were legitimate threats for a Big 12 title, and then they've fallen off the past 2-3 weeks here after that Utah loss. But my bold prediction here is that Sorsby and Hoover combined for 600 yards total passing, but they also combined for 3 interceptions in this game. Because I think that's just the kind of game this is going to be between those two guys in this one as well. I don't have a lot.
Bud Clark interception down the seam.
The Bud Clark interception down the seam. Grandpa Clark in his final college game, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TCU always has these like insanely battle tested defensive backs.
Yeah.
It's like you write the guy's profile. It's like, okay, yeah, this guy has more snaps than anybody I could find in their careers.
They always.
They had who's the guy that went to the big Josh Newton?
Yes, Josh Newton. Yeah.
And then the guy with the double last name, undersized.
Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Hodges Tomlinson.
Trey Hodges
Yeah.
Tomlinson. Yeah.
Yep. Man, I was so bullish on him despite his size. I was like, I don't care. This guy's so good. This guy's a dog. And I missed on that one. But I missed on that one. But outside of that, I think we got a lot of back-to-school candidates. I know Cincinnati receivers are running out of eligibility between Cyrus Allen and Jeff Caldwell. I like Cyrus Allen as kind of like a gadget field stretcher slash manufactured touch guy, but I think he rounds out the back end of a wide receiver room at the NFL level. And same with Jeff Caldwell, just being a strict vertical threat, big bodied vertical threat. He's got a lot of really bad drops on his tape this year, though, for Cincinnati. And then I think Joe Royer has a potential future, but I think more of like an H back role than a true inline guy as well.
Yeah, 30 sub 32-inch arms is tough.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. What really sucks for Cincy is they have all of these older guys, and it really did feel like this was the year for them to win the Big 12, and it kind of
Yeah.
crumbled down the stretch for them. But is what it is. That's my last bold prediction. Florida State. Obviously, the Caleb Banks week 2 back now. He's got a game under his belt back from his 10-week hiatus. How does he look in this one? You could tell he really ramped up last week as the game went along. So I'm excited to see that. But outside of that, both those schools again pretty devoid of NFL draft talent.
Some NFL team, for those of you listening, one of you guys is a fan of an NFL team that desperately needs a defensive tackle.
And they're going to draft
And
Daryl Jackson.
unfortunately, you're going to come away with Daryl Jackson Jr. this offseason as your one investment. And then week 5, you're going to get on your team subreddit and ask, hey,
Why did we draft this guy top 50?
why did we what were the like redeeming qualities of this guy that we drafted, who now that I check back didn't have any college production and also like now isn't producing in the NFL?
And he's a healthy scratch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the LSU defensive tackle from 2 years ago who's the same way? Oh, it's going to come to me. Jaguars drafted him.
No,
Mason Smith.
Mason Smith. Yeah.
Same thing with Mason Smith, dude. Like this is a Mason Smith situation for me.
Yeah, Daryl, it's like I'm willing to use my imagination on somebody that has a lot of traits, especially if they're like a true junior coming out. Daryl Jackson is the perfect example of where age I think does matter in the draft. I don't think it's just a blanket like multiplier that you apply to every prospect of like younger is better, older is worse. It's with guys that need, tangible development in certain areas. If they are a true junior, or if they're really young, if there's a reason, an explanation for why they don't have the necessary technical ability, then I'm much more willing to draft and develop, because that's your job in the NFL is to coach these guys up. If we're still saying that about a guy that's 24, 25, and importantly has had multiple like healthy years of college where they could have been producing, if you're 20, 24 years old and all you still just have a bull rush, like that signals to me that it's probably not going to happen. And like sometimes it will, but this whole thing it's a numbers game. So you kind of just have to have a cutoff where it's like, yeah, if you're this old, this experienced, and it's still not happening, then I'm kind of out.
Yep, I would agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Those Florida State DBs we liked early in the season, all back to school candidates, I think, as well. I think some team might overdraft Austin Barber, but I say that and then nobody overdrafted Stone Forsyth, who's kind of traits wise a pretty identical player. So maybe they won't. I hope they don't, because I think that's a day 3 player all day. All right. Let's move on to the Iron Bowl here. I think we're running out of games to talk about. The Iron Bowl, and again, even from an Auburn perspective in this game, not a ton to talk about. Ty Simpson desperately needs a rebound game in this one, though. Like, I think that's the narrative of this game is Ty Simpson, he's got to play well. Like, we're coming off a game where you threw 2 first-half interceptions against an FCS school. So
I went back and watched. To be fair, one of them was on a Hail Mary.
Oh, well, okay.
One of them was a legit interception. He didn't see like a dropping hole defender, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. I obviously don't chart those games because I don't want to muck up my data of those level of competition games. Anything else? I think Caden Proctor versus Keldrick Falk is obviously the headliner of this game from an NFL draft perspective, 1-on-1. And I will say this should be this needs to be a good resume game for Caleb Proctor, because all of the ways that Keldrick Falk wins are ways that Caden Proctor's built to defend.
Yeah,
For Caden Proctor to defend. Yeah.
I think Keldrick
Like, he's
Falk
just going to try to beat him through the chest, or he's going to try to knife inside right off the snap, and those are all things that he should be well equipped to block up. Yeah.
From what I can tell, I think Keldrick Falk and Caden Proctor, I'm probably both gonna end up lower on than consensus. I don't see like I don't see the elite athletic upside with Keldrick Falk. That it's like sometimes with players that are big and like not that great, we conflate their lack of technical polish with athletic upside almost. It's like if a guy's like big and awkward, people talk about them like they're great athletes just because they're unpolished. Like I don't know. It's like if they aren't technically developed, then we have to call it athletic upside.
Right.
I think he's a good athlete for his size, but I don't know that he's like. I don't see my mind doesn't go crazy with the potential outcomes with Keldrick Falk.
No, I think he's got some pretty nice hips because he can reduce surface area pretty well,
Right.
especially as a run defender. But his ankles are tight. Like, he's not taking outside track consistently. So I'm kind of in the same book where it's like, yeah, he can get better and he can develop, but like, I don't think he's getting more flexible. So like, right now I have a low second round grade on him. There are people talking about this guy as like a top 5 player in the class, and I'm just like, I've never, even in the summer, like I was texting guys, it's like, what do we? I don't see this. And they're like, no, he's fluid, and I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? Because I don't see it. Like, even his like explosiveness and get off, I think, is probably like 78th percentile. Like, I don't even think it's outrageously high.
Yeah, I prefer like his flexibility and fluidity over his explosiveness, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's 21st on my board. 5th.
He's 20th on my board.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's 20th on my board, and Proctor is 32.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you on those guys.
I would also highlight Bray Hubbard as a like I don't. This is not a source's comment, but like I think he's right on the edge between going back to school
on the fence.
And declaring. Because he's had some dominant performances this year, and some pretty bad ones. So this could be a big game for him.
Could be indeed. All right, man. I'm going through the rest of this list, and there ain't much from an NFL draft perspective to talk about the rest of the way out here. So I think that's a good place to cut it off in terms of this Week 14 deep dive and implications that we're looking at. Enjoy both Friday, Saturday, a live slate of games to watch here. So enjoy it with your family if you're still on the road. I know I am. So enjoy that time. Until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. See ya.